We often hear about the apartheid wall, that Israel's an apartheid state, and they have an apartheid wall. It's a monstrosity, and it is ugly, and it is land grabbing, and it is destructive to the Palestinian people. It divides families, it divides communities, it is without justification, it is illegal, and it is not primarily for security. We hear this over and over. What is the truth about this wall? Is it primarily a wall? Is it primarily a fence? Why was it built? Why was it built where it was built? What has been the impact of this? There's a report on YouTube, AJ Plus. This is an offshoot of Al Jazeera TV targeting 18 to 24-year-olds. And this is Dina Takruri talking about this, quote, apartheid wall and saying, is it for security or is Israel further oppressing the Palestinians? Listen to what she has to say.
I'm standing in front of one of the most infamous man-made structures in the world. In some places, it's as high as 8 meters, making it twice the height of the Berlin Wall. It runs 280 miles long, basically the distance between Philadelphia and Boston. It's been under construction for the past 13 years, and it's still not done. Oh, and according to the International Court of Justice, this wall is completely illegal.
Let's first point something out. As she references this wall, it is 97% fence and 3% wall. Let's just start with the facts. 97% fence and 3% wall. That's first thing. Second thing, most Israelis don't like it either. Most Israelis are not happy with it either, but it is there for a reason. What is the reason? To keep murderers out. And why is there a wall at certain points rather than just a fence? To keep snipers out. And why is the wall a certain height at certain places? To keep snipers from killing Israeli children and women and men. That's why it is there. But of course, there's going to be a very different spin put on it from Palestinian activists. So Dina Takruri continues her description of, quote, the apartheid wall.
I'm in the occupied West Bank, where Palestinians have been living under Israeli military occupation since 1967. The wall is one of the most imposing parts of that occupation. Israel began building the wall in the early 2000s during a wave of suicide bombings that targeted Israelis. The Israeli government calls it the separation barrier or the security fence and says the aim is to keep out Palestinian attackers. But thousands of Palestinians still manage to get across every day looking for work. So if the wall doesn't stop people from crossing, then what does it do? Let's take a look at the root of the wall. You'd think a wall meant to stop people from entering its territory would be built on Israel's border. But 85% of it is inside the occupied West Bank on Palestinian land. International law says it's illegal to build settlements like these on occupied territory. But this is one of over 200 settlements and settler outposts housing 500,000 Israelis in the occupied West Bank. Technically, these settlers live outside of Israel proper, but the wall has shifted the boundary between Israel and the West Bank to swallow up more Palestinian land.
Let us address some of the points that were made. Number one, the wall was built to keep murderers out, and it is primarily a fence, a security barrier. It was built to keep murderers out. How did it do in terms of reducing Palestinian terror? Dropped it by roughly 99%. Dropped it by roughly 99%. That is a fact. It has been tremendously effective. The Palestinians that are coming in through the regular checkpoints are obviously coming in and are not murdering Israelis. And in fact, those that are, that's the smallest minority. And the so-called occupied territory, let's remember, if not for the murderous intent of Palestinian leadership, everybody would be living in peace. What happened to the Palestinians, Arabs, who live in Israel proper? They went from 200,000 to 1.5 million since 1948. They are in the Knesset, the Israeli parliament. They sit on the Israeli Supreme Court. They have positions of influence throughout the nation. They have more rights than other Arabs in the Middle East. They have tons more rights and liberties than the Palestinians living under Palestinian Authority or under Hamas in Gaza. Why? Because if you don't want to kill the Israelis, they'll do good by you. If you don't want to kill the Israelis, the government will work with you. But she has more to say, and we'll give one more clip as she weighs in with why this is so ugly and wrong and unjust.
You'd think the biblical city of Bethlehem would have a booming tourism industry. But here, you can find one of the clearest examples of how the wall has devastated the Palestinian economy. Many businesses have shut down and families have left. When it's completed, Bethlehem will be completely cut off from its agricultural land, its churches, and more. The wall, along with a series of illegal Israeli settlements, are physically strangling the city and it can't expand. And because of the wall, most Palestinians coming from Bethlehem cannot take this road to nearby Jerusalem. You can only get through this checkpoint if you have a special permit, which most Palestinians can't get. So there you have it. This wall, a fixture of the occupation, has destroyed neighborhoods, strangled the economy, and illegally grabbed more Palestinian land. Palestinians call it the Apartheid wall. And the question is, how long will it stand?
Yeah, again, one misrepresentation after another. Palestinian leadership celebrates as martyrs Palestinians who go in and murder Israeli children. Celebrate them as martyrs. Name streets after them. Have celebratory events in their honor. Hail them as shaheeds, martyrs who are now in paradise. Palestinian TV incites hatred against the Israelis to the point that children, 13, 14, 15-year-old children, will just go into Israel to stab Israelis to death because they're so angered towards Israel. Oh, and Israel's going to take away their privileges at the Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Dome of the Rock and things like that. And all these lies are spread. And then as they're spread, the people get inflamed with anger. If the Palestinians stopped inciting violence, if the leadership stopped inciting violence, there would be no wall. And Christian influence and freedoms in Bethlehem began to go down when the Palestinian Authority took control. Look at the quality of life in Gaza for the Palestinians there. It has suffered greatly under Hamas. And by the way, the route of the wall, you saw it's not going 50 miles into territories or, some outrageous amount of space or something like that. Cutting in a little here and there. Why? Because as Israel analyzed things, they said this is the best way to build it to keep the murderers out. If the Palestinians would work to stop the terrorists and would work with Israel rather than against Israel, there would be no security barrier. It's anything but an apartheid wall. It's a security barrier to keep murderers out. And everyone should say that is a good move. My bottom line today, Golda Meir said this: peace will come when the Arabs will love their children more than they hate us.